Welcome everyone to Conversations from Stritch. Today is March 21st, 2024. I'm Dr. David Livingston, and I am joined by Dr. Christopher Sint, our provost here at Lewis University. First, I want to start out with today is our Day of Giving. This is it's a national event where different universities raise money once a year. This is our Day of Giving. It brings the community together. I just want to invite anybody to stop over at Stritch Hall. There's food, there is music, there are these little blowy things outside of Stritch that are like these people, like they look like men with weird heads on top of them, to balloons, all sorts of stuff. We are going to be announcing this afternoon the launch of our comprehensive campaign. It's a $50 million campaign. We'll launch it at 2 o'clock, so please stop over to Stritch, grab a cookie. We have crumble cookies over there, so as well as all sorts of other things. And if you donate, you get a pair of socks, a pair of Lewis socks, which we all love our Lewis socks. The campaign supports Lewis's strategic plan. Falls into three broad categories, focusing on our endowment, so primarily scholarships and programmatic endowment. Spaces and places, which means labs, courts, athletic fields outside, all of those kinds of things. And then contemporary programmatic offerings, so money that goes to directly help students right now, this fiscal year, that kind of stuff. You can give to Lewis in general, or you can give to very specific areas. Our goal today is to try to raise $100,000 in this day. We're up over 80,000, I think 81,000. When I left Stritch Hall, so I think we'll be able to get there. Scholarships for St. Augustine, for example, WLRA, which is exciting for this studio space in terms of students that are on the radio and on TV, Flyer Athletics. And the lunch party, just again, a reminder, is at 2 o'clock over in Stritch Hall. I also want to say that we had a great community hour this week, Women's History Month event with a presentation that was on how do you find a meaningful career. There was a library presentation, the basics that we have almost every week, which are mass, esports stuff, comedy, improv. But the big event was a career expo. We had 99 businesses on campus. I will tell you, it's a relatively good year to graduate because there are a lot of employers who really need talented professionals, and Lewis is a place where you can come and meet hundreds and hundreds of graduates that are coming in. So I want to thank all the staff and faculty who volunteered and helped out at the Career Center staff to make the event great yesterday. Also looking forward, tonight is our TEDx event. You can still get tickets. We have some great people speaking tonight, both students and alumni, on mental health, on how to manage your time, money, communication. In addition, tonight at the same time, so it's as is always true on this campus, I feel like there's 5 things going on. The iftar dinner, which is the fast-breaking meal during Ramadan, is happening tonight, and it features a talk by Brother Faizan Mumtaz, who's a leader of an organization called Young Muslims. And then tomorrow night, and you can still get tickets for this as well if you go to the alumni webpage, is the COFAC Kickback. It's a celebration of student accomplishments, news about COFAC, which is our College of Humanities, Fine Arts, and Communication, honoring of Keith White, Professor Emeritus of Theater. It should be just an amazing event. I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard we've sold over 200 tickets, I think around 220 tickets. So there'll be a big crowd there tomorrow night to celebrate the humanities, fine arts, and communication, our students, our faculty, and our former faculty. So it should be a great night. I know we'll have a good time tomorrow night. So Chris, we also have some news about faculty accomplishments.
Yeah, we do. It's great to be with everyone. Hello. I'm looking forward to tonight. I know that things do happen simultaneously all the time here, but tonight's 2 events are difficult. I think you're going to one and I'm going to the other. I'll try to at least see a little bit of the TEDx event, but I'm really looking forward to the dinner tonight as well. So congratulations to Dr. Jamil Mustafa, who is a professor of English Studies, who presented a paper on March 9th in Boston at the 55th Annual Northeast Modern Language Association Conference. His presentation is called Beyond the Animal Within, Jekyll and Hyde and the Werewolf. Dr. Mustafa also was invited by the curator of the Bennington Museum in Vermont to study items in the newly acquired Shirley Jackson Archive, including a supposedly haunted music box. This is a short story writer who writes scary short stories, I'll just put it that way, that Dr. Jamil has some expertise in her work, and so he got to go and look at a haunted music box, letters to friends and colleagues, and manuscripts for books and short stories. He is a scholar of Jackson's work. Congratulations, huge congratulations to the Department of Aviation and the Aviation Maintenance Program, who received a $990,000 grant from the Federal Aviation Administration. This 2-year award will allow Lewis to offer funding to establish new educational programs, provide scholarships or apprenticeships, conduct outreach about careers in the aviation maintenance industry, and support educational opportunities related to maintenance in economically disadvantaged areas. And that does include scholarships for potential maintenance or prospective maintenance students. So we're really excited about that grant for the next 2 years, a lot more ability to offer scholarships and do other things in aviation maintenance. Now looking forward a bit to put on your calendars a few events. The 3rd annual Brother Bernard Rapp Lecture on Faith and Science will take place on April 8th at 3:30 p.m. in AS 158A, featuring Dr. Christiana Zenner, whose presentation is called Fresh Waters, Science, Values, and the Role of Theology. Dr. Zenner is an associate professor of theology, science, and ethics at Fordham University. Mark your calendars for the final theater production of the year, Godspell. Godspell was the first major musical theater offering from 3-time Grammy and Academy Award winner Stephen Schwartz. And it offers a vibrant mix of music and storytelling, features a lively cast to act out parables with humor, games, and a unique blend of musical styles from pop to vaudeville. And those performances are between the weekends of April 19th and April 25th. So get your tickets now, plan your weekends, plan which day you're gonna go. It's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And then going all the way back to the present, today is the final day of the 100th exhibit of the Brent and Jean Wadsworth Family Gallery, which features artwork by Lewis University alumni, and is the exhibit is free and available to the public. It actually leads up, I think it's actually open tomorrow. March 22nd is tomorrow. So it ends tomorrow. It ends with the COFAC kickback party that Dr. Livingston just talked about. So come tomorrow, and you'll come at the right time, and you'll find yourself at a party. The Alumni Art and Design Invitational features 26 artists and over 60 works of art, including paintings, drawings, photography, sculpture, digital work, and mixed media. So now you're going to tell us a little more detail about events.
A few other things, but just one quick thing about, one of the things you mentioned. So the Godspell, also just because we're kind of in alumni mode, the 19th, if you are an alum and you're watching this, the 19th they're having a kind of a special event for alumni to come, a little wine and cheese for some of our alumni for the Godspell opening night. So that'll be nice. So you can look on the alumni website for that event. Upcoming events on campus, and some of them actually tonight. So you can see on here tonight we have the Art Club, Dr. Taylor Soja, who's an ISU professor, talking about the British Wars that the history department's putting on. We also have Casino Night being held by the Actuarial Club, and Women's History Month Kahoot. We also, in the chapel tomorrow, have the fish fry, Friday fish fry, as well as baseball hosting Maryville, and a screening of The Dark Knight, which feels like it takes me back to when I used to watch, I still like to watch those Batman movies, so fun. And then upcoming, we also have a Super Bowl watch party. Hold on, these are the wrong dates on there.
But you can announce them.
And I have them on here. So we have other things that are coming up, just in terms of athletics. We do have a sneaker ball in Memorial Hall. We do have baseball playing, softball playing this weekend, hosting Maryville on the baseball side and William Jewell on the softball side. And then March Madness as opposed to the Super Bowl. We're like a month different.
We're always watching something.
We're always watching something. But I can't believe March Madness is starting. And with our guest today, we'll be able to talk a little March Madness as well. We also have a forum taking place in St. Charles Borromeo on Palestine and Israel on March 25th. And a tie-dye, as well as a women leadership forum that's put on by Sodexo. So just a lot going on in the next couple weeks. But I'm really excited to talk to our guests. I was saying right before the show started that I feel like I'm around royalty here. So Chris, do you want to introduce our guest?
Before I do that, I think there is maybe at least one other announcement to make about athletics.
Hold on. We do have some other announcements to make. Yes, sorry. I got ahead of myself. So excited about our guest being here that I got excited. But a few congratulations. So I do want to say, in addition to what we'll celebrate today, the men's and women's swimming team, those that made the national tournament, competed last week at the D2 National Championships. Men finished in 9th place and the women finished in 16th. Really impressive turnout. I will say that 4 of the top teams are all in our conference, of the top 10 teams. So congratulations to men's and women's swimming. Lacrosse travels to Alabama to compete against Huntsville. And women's lacrosse travels to Grand Rapids, Michigan to take on Aquinas and Davenport. Men's tennis also plays this weekend at University of Chicago. And men and women compete Sunday against St. Francis. Track and field will travel to Missouri. It's hard to believe, it just doesn't sound that fun to be outside running this time of year, but
it's perfect.
Men's volleyball also travels to North Carolina to take on Queens in 2 games over the weekend, and then women's bowling will compete in the GLVC conference tournament. Okay, so now we can turn to our guest for talking about another GLVC conference tournament.
Yeah, we are. I mean, there's still so much going on with athletics simultaneously looking at that list. But I'm really excited about our focus today. We're going to talk about women's basketball, and I'm going to introduce our 3 guests to launch us, and then we'll talk. So first of all, Keisha Newell has concluded her 2nd season at the helm of the Lewis University women's basketball program. She led the Flyers to a 21-11 record in her first season while finishing runner-up in the GLVC tournament and earning a trip to the NCAA Midwest Regional. This season, Newell led the Flyers to a 23-9 record overall and a program best 19 wins in the GLVC play. The Flyers won the regular season championship as well as the GLVC championship. It was the first women's basketball tournament championship since 2013. And with the win, the Flyers earned its 2nd straight trip to the NCAA Midwest Regional. Coach Newell comes to Lewis after spending 3 seasons as the head coach and assistant AD at tradition-rich Mother Macaulay Liberal Arts High School in Chicago. Prior to her time at Macaulay, she served as the head women's basketball coach at Roosevelt University, and she was a 3-time captain and starter at point guard for the Loyola Ramblers. That's Keisha. Moving on to our next guest, Taylor Galuza is a senior with 1 more year of eligibility if you're checking. She earned 2nd team all-conference and is generally recognized as the team's best defender. She is a criminal justice major from New Lenox. And finally, Grace Hilber has concluded her time on the Lewis team. We'll talk about that. She earned a unanimous 1st team all-conference as well as D2 CCA 2nd team all-Midwest region at the conclusion of this year's season. She's from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and is currently a student in the MBA program. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience listening to me say all that. So great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And congratulations, first of all, on
what a
an
great
amazing
season.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am not supposed to have favorites, but I have to tell you, I loved watching you all play
Thank you.
all year long. It's
He's
such
not
a
supposed
joy.
to have favorites, but I will confirm that women's basketball.
I talk about it a lot. So it's really exciting to have you with us.
Thank you.
So first of all, Keisha, tell us a little bit, like in terms of the whole span of the season. How does it feel to have to live through an entire season from beginning to end? How do you change as a person, and how does the team change?
That's a great question. We changed a lot over the course of the year, just from beginning to end. I'm thinking back to our first preseason meeting, so people can see the trophy and see the championship, but not really understand what we went through to get there. Just the adversity, the highs, the lows. I mean, these young women are going through things personally in their lives, in the classroom too. So just thinking back to our first team meeting in the AS building, just talking about our goals, and a lot of the goals were championships and rings, and so cool to see how that played out, but also to understand we overcame a lot of adversity, and we stuck together, and we really talked about what our team needed from our coaches and what the coaches needed from our team members, as well as what they needed from each other. So we worked through a lot of that. They have grown so much, and I'm just so proud of them.
It's great. So I am, Taylor and Grace, I guess, give me a sense of, I was saying this before the show started, but give me a sense of the tournament. So maybe you could just describe the GLVC tournament. Let's start with that. And, on one level, as long as you win, it's 3 games, right? Because there's 8 teams. So walk us through, for those that weren't able to watch it, but and what's the emotions of, I don't know if you kind of quote unquote feel like, oh yeah, we should win our first game because you were seeded number 1. And then how does it go through, and especially playing Drury at the end? So just maybe you could talk through what is it like in the locker room? What's it like in the hotel in the morning when you wake up?
That was like
20 questions. I know, but I'm trying to get I'm looking for the what is it like on the team?
Well,
the tournament?
To start, we play mostly every team twice throughout the season. So, I mean, just beating a team 3 times is obviously hard, as is, and being the 1 seed, we did beat most of the teams either once or twice. So going into it, honestly, every single game we knew was going to be a tough one. And so, yeah, we played 3 games in 4 days. Well, that was the goal. That's obviously the goal. Right. And I think this year it was a lot easier, too, because we got the 1 seed, and we kind of got that day off after the first game. But yeah, like you said, going into the conference tournament, it's a grind. Your bodies are so worn down by the end of it. So just kind of, obviously not overlooking the first game, and yeah, just staying together and resting and drinking our Pedialyte.
That's the drink of choice, is it, for the team?
I wouldn't say drink of choice.
Okay. Drink of choice by the coach?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair.
But yeah, no, like you said, it's definitely tough, but we knew what we were capable of, and yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that?
Yeah.
So why is it hard to beat the same team 3 times? If you can beat them.
Just because every team scouts, and we know what we need to do better for the next game as how we played them the first time. So each time the teams will have different plays or different defense. So we just have to get used to that.
Yeah. So they the second time they play you, they might notice weakness or something that is not obvious.
Yeah.
I think also too, a lot of teams, once you beat them twice, you overlook a team
It's
too.
psychological.
So yeah, it's definitely a mental shift, and kind of bringing it back to you can't get too high during those times.
So could you both talk about it? Maybe Coach Newell, you could also speak to this. So people scout you, but in some sense, what I view watching tape is scouting yourself, right? I mean, it's kind of like noticing your own weaknesses, right? So talk to me a little bit about that process for you as athletes, watching yourself, because I know sometimes it can be hard to oh my gosh, look at me, I blew that coverage, or wasn't that a beautiful shot, and then or whatever the case may be. But what's watching tape like for the two of you, and then what is the process for you of trying to talk them through it.
Yeah, so when we watch film on ourselves, it's definitely sometimes hard to watch because, like you said, we want to see what we're struggling with, and then I think the coaches also do a good job of balancing. So they'll show us a lot of bad clips, and then they'll show us just as much good clips. So it's just like we have to take in the bad clips and recognize what we're doing poorly, and then work on in practice and in games to fix that.
Yeah, I would say honestly, like looking back at the season, like our hardest film days when, let's say we just came off of a loss or a bad game and we knew it was going to come in film, like where we had, it coming for us. Honestly, I would say those like carried on to our best games. I think every team needs to like go through that and see yourself in those positions. And I think also like Taylor said, there's definitely a balance too. Where you want to look at like the good stuff and focusing on the other team. But this year I think we also really focused on like ourselves and seeing what we can do instead of always focusing on the other team and like their scout.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
So
definitely a
Keisha, how
balance.
do you think about the film, those parts of the week of practice, so to speak?
Very important. And it's hard because we are competitive and we're sort of perfectionists, right? We want to be the best we can in what we do. So we analyze everything. But like they talked about, it's a balance. So we want to show them how they can be better, but we were also a pretty good team. So we want to show them the good things too. So they did a great job. They matured a lot in understanding why we are showing them these clips, and then also following up with some positive, constructive, criticism with all of it. But yeah, it makes a difference because you want to see how you can improve, and you're breaking it down like to a science, what your footwork could be and all of that good stuff, and it helps.
And then does the film, I want to go back to the tournament, I assume that the film is also, so we've played these people twice before, right? And we also can get film for how they played against everybody else.
Exactly.
And they mature as the season goes on, right? So we might have played them twice relatively early, and then in the last 3 weeks, they're using a new defense. Or I don't know, how does
Or they have
that,
an injury.
how does or an injured player, so now we're facing a new person. How does that play into the prep? Because I know there's a short period of time between kind of the last game of the season and the tournament. All right, what do you have, 4 days, 5 days?
Yes.
So, and then you got your first, do you focus on your first opponent with the film watching, or do you focus on the second opponent, or, because you, again, only have so much time?
As a head coach, you focus on the next opponent, so there's no guarantee that we beat the first one and get to the second one. So that's just been my thing. I can't move on to the next opponent until we beat the current one. And in this situation, we played University of Missouri St. Louis the final game of the season, and then played them back to back in the tournament. So they were within 4 or 5 points the first 2 games, and they were confident. So we knew that we had to do whatever it took to prepare our team, and so it was interesting for sure, but I think we made some adjustments and we threw some new things at them that they couldn't really scout for, and it helped us.
Could you talk, both of you, could you talk a little bit about, like, you mentioned being tired at the end of the season just from, the accrual of all the wear and tear, but like in a weekend, how do you sleep? Like we travel a lot, and I'm always exhausted, like the third day that I'm on a trip, because I never sleep well or whatever, and you're playing these games and it's stressful. So like, how do you manage your health and your rest and all that through a tournament like that?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I think I had like a tough time too, was because like before games, like I'm obviously nervous, anxious, and sometimes it's hard to like eat and stuff, and having to go through that 3 times in 4 weekends, like you said, it definitely takes a toll on like your health and like just your body. But I don't know, having like great trainers there to kind of help you too. They'd always bring my muscle milk out and stuff like that to kind of help me. But yeah, I would just say trying to stay like, I don't know, just take every meal and every have the boots on every night, so, and just work through it that way.
Yeah, and the coaches and our trainers, they would buy us like Pedialyte or liquid IV just to try to help us like rest, get our bodies hydrated again. So little stuff like that we don't like doing it, but it definitely helps us a lot.
And you typically travel from what, Thursday through Saturday?
Wednesday.
Or Wednesday, you leave
we
Wednesday. Yeah, so
after
that's not that
classes.
different. You know,
Yep.
you're probably, it's more
Used to
stressful
that-
to be in the
used to that
tournament, I'm sure,
cadence,
but
yeah.
you're used to
Yeah.
that kind of rhythm of things.
Exactly.
So, Grace and Taylor, there may be some people watching who are prospective D2 student athletes. So could you talk to me about what it's like to be a student athlete? You know, maybe what have been some of the most meaningful things to be on a team, but also, you know, obviously you're doing all your studies and all of that stuff. And maybe what are some of the more difficult parts about balancing being a student and an athlete? So, you know, if you could talk, I guess maybe I'm asking, if you could talk to your 17-year-old self, who was in the spring of their senior year, about going D2 and playing, or maybe I'll just be a student. Like, give me, you know, because that's an option that a lot of people are, you know, they're facing. Like, do I want to continue to play? Or maybe they'll say, well, maybe I'll play D3 instead of D2. So just give me a little sense of what you would say to those, and maybe you have, you know, younger sisters that you have had this conversation with, so that are, you know, 17 right now in high school. But what would you say to them?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely like a job almost in a sense, because you wake up, you go to class, then right from class you go to practice, and then you go eat and then sleep, and it's kind of just like a cycle repeated every day. You just honestly have to want to do it. You have to wake up and want to go to class and then want to go to practice. And obviously there's days where you don't want to go to class, you don't want to go to practice, but it's pushing yourself to like make yourself go to class and make yourself go to practice. And my 4 years here, it definitely hasn't been the easiest, but I'm really glad that I did it. And looking back, I think that with every year I've gotten better at doing it. So now it's just like a routine.
Yeah, I would say, like Taylor said, just getting in a good routine. For me, I found myself doing like the best in school when I was in season because I had that routine. And then like, let's say postseason or preseason, like you really have so much time on your hands, and that's when I feel like you can fall out of that routine. So yeah, like Taylor said, I don't think I would do it any other way. And it's definitely, I think, helped me excel more in school, being on a team, like we have study hours and being able to go through that. So yeah.
And I will say the teachers also do a really good job at accommodating for all of us. So the last 3 weeks when we were traveling nonstop, I know my teachers, they helped me like push assignments back. They would extend assignments. So it was really helpful that they were willing to help me and wanted me to focus on my sport also.
And do you think, Grace, do you think graduate school is any different than anything else you experienced? Is it similar routine, or is it a different like kind of schedule of when the classes are? And I mean, is there anything about it that makes it different?
Yeah, for me, it was honestly a little easier just because a lot of my classes were all online, async, so I didn't have to like meet in person or meet on Zoom or anything. So it really just came down to like turning in my discussion posts and stuff on time. But it wasn't too much different than undergrad.
And Keisha, how do you like, so I just heard from the two of them, you're obviously moving into, and you've done most of this, but probably in some sense beginning to talk to juniors in high school. So how do you speak about the student athlete experience at Lewis and on this team to try to not only get them to choose being a student athlete, but to come to this team? Like, what's the pitch? Like, come and play with me because at Lewis and on this team, this is who we are, and this is the kind of experience you're going to have. Give me a little, in case there's somebody that's, you know, mom is watching this, or they'll watch this on tape a week from now and be like, oh, you know, because there probably will be some of them that do that.
Absolutely. Our pitch is the culture, like what we've built here the last 2 years. Our players want to be here. We care for them. We love them. We hold them to high standards, right? But we also understand what they're going through as people. And I know as a parent, I would want that for my child. I want them to play for someone who cares beyond just dribbling a basketball. And it's a winning culture, winning, successful, that helps to along the way. But it's bigger than basketball. We're teaching them to be good people, great students, and better basketball players too. So that's our pitch. They come on campus, they get to know us, they get to know our team. They are most important, right? They're spending their next 4 years with their teammates a lot of times, so we use them a lot in the process too.
Sure, that's great.
And just to follow up on that, can you talk a little bit about like some things you do to create that atmosphere, that culture that you mentioned?
Absolutely. So just like our initial team meeting, right, we would do a lot of team building throughout the season. And it's not just coming from us. So when it comes from the coaches, it may feel like a task, but we broke them up in small groups this year, and they were in charge of doing team building for themselves. So it was 2 different teams, and they would compete in a lot of different things, but it was pretty hilarious to see them compete, but also build and form those relationships, maybe even with people that you wouldn't connect with outside of the sport. So it's cool to watch those relationships blossom.
And how did you 2 experience that?
We were on the same team,
Okay.
the dogs.
The dogs, did you say?
The dogs.
The underdogs.
The
Underdogs.
underdogs.
Oh, the
Yeah.
underdogs.
It was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
honestly.
It began like at the beginning of the year when we preseason, and basically like each week a team would get a point if they won conditioning that week. And unfortunately, the dogs lost preseason. That's why we're the underdogs. And the other team got a bunch of like little coupons like throughout the year they could use like to get off runs and stuff like that. And then when we started doing our like small team building in film and stuff, we kept with those teams, and then it just became like this big rivalry between
And
the
I will
two.
say, the dogs won most of them.
Most of them.
After
In the end, I
conditioning,
think we came out on top.
no.
I think we came out on top with that, but every time we won, they would be like, coupons, coupons.
It just makes it more fun, especially because the teams were mixed up like with everybody on the team. So like I know for the dogs, like we all got a lot closer. We all wanted to always win, wanted the best from each other, and same for the city cats also.
Cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, so I'm interested in, I'd love to hear the 2 of you talk, because I'm sure there's been times, like you are 2 of the starters, 2 of the key players on this team, but there are players, especially maybe their first year, who aren't going to get any playing time. And what it made me think of is what you just said, like, so you're mixing it up, right? These teams are mixed with first year, 5th year, people that get a lot of playing time, people that get very little playing time. So, but you've been in that, like, I don't know what it was, maybe for both of you it was 6th grade or something last time that you didn't start. I don't know, because I know you're very good. But talk to me a little bit about how you build that team bond when people get different playing time. This is, I used to coach. It's a complicated thing, right? And then I'd love to hear from Coach, but hear from you first. Like, how does that work? Because obviously, when you guys are, like I said, you're kind of the stars of the show, but it's a whole team and everybody's necessary.
Yeah, definitely. And just like exactly what you said, everybody's necessary. And I think the coaches do a really good job at letting everybody know that everyone has a role on their team, regardless of what the role is, whether you're playing 40 minutes a game or you're not playing any minutes. Everyone has a role that's just equally as important. And I think that people really like listening to that and hearing that whether they're not playing, they're still just as important as the person that is playing the whole game. And I think that like the team bonding and what we do outside of basketball also really helps because our team is so close and we all do really care for each other. So just knowing that like you have a spot and a place on this team that's just as important is a really big deal.
Yeah, I think honestly that was like the deciding factor this year. What took us to like being good and to being great was that like the people who weren't playing as many minutes wanted it just as much as the people who were playing those minutes. Like just throughout the game, like the bench was just amazing. Even like times when we would get down on ourselves, like they would be the ones lifting us up, or when we would be doing good, like they would be the ones cheering the loudest. And I think that's really what honestly got us to this trophy this year. And it was just like it's more enjoyable even for us because like there's just always cheering us on, and yeah, it was just a great year in that sense.
So Coach, how do you deal with that? Because I know that's always an issue for coaches. You want a whole team, and you have to decide who's going to get the minutes.
Absolutely. I read a quote before. It said, a team's culture is based on the players who don't play. And that is, honest to God, the truth. And we have some amazing people who I think as coaches, if you pour into everyone and you're not just focused on the people who play and you truly mean what you say, you love them and you uplift them, they will buy in. And they are just as much a part of this championship as anybody who's played 40 minutes, because some people don't understand the process. Like in practice, we have a scout team. So the scout team are typically players who are not playing as many minutes. They're the other team that we're playing. So they are getting us better every single day. One of our captains, Elena Sokup, is a sophomore who did not play many minutes this year or last year, and she was one of our most vocal players, and she was a leader, so that kind of set the tone for the players who didn't play as many minutes, and that means just as much to us as coaches and to the team, as people who play 40.
Yeah, and I think people who haven't been an athlete, and I was in high school and have been on a lot of teams even after I graduated, and I know Chris played a lot. I think that sense, if you've never done that how important the practice is, right? Because that's the game is the game, but the practice is what creates the conditions for the game, and you can't practice with just 5 players, right? So I think it's so important, but it's hard sometimes for people to, kind of keep that in their heads. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I forgot to mention earlier that there is a way to ask questions. Ask us at lewisu.edu on the screen there. So if you would like to ask a question of our guests, please use that. Remember, it's an email as well. And if you're watching this on YouTube afterwards, feel free to use it, and we can direct the question to
So if one
anybody.
one of your teammates is watching this,
Right.
which they may be, they might
They-
want to just send in a question, just like a zinger question for one of you.
And
Just saying.
we
there's a
will
possibility.
only ask the ones that are relevant and appropriate. This is going to be a really hard question to answer, and it's related to what you were just talking about, but in what you just said a few minutes ago, Grace, about what took the team to a higher level. But I don't know if you could just talk a little bit more about that, or you two could talk about it. But it looked from the outside like not only that you cared about each other, and that's kind of the arc of the season too. I was there at the last game. It was clearly very emotional, and for the whole team. Just to have it end, like it always does, but also just like fun, like how much does having fun and enjoying yourselves matter in terms of the results, or not? And I guess you could say, how much does it matter? Period. But
yeah, having fun is a huge part of the sport that we play, especially towards the end of the year. It's kind of not repetitive, but we're going to the gym every single day with the same people for long hours of the day. So just making sure that we want to be there, and the team is so fun. Like, we're all very close friends, so it just makes it a lot easier to come to practice and to come to games and keep wanting to be there.
Yeah, I think also, like, again, going back to we were talking about like the culture of our team during games, when I feel like the people who are playing are very like tense and kind of going through certain situations, having that like fun on the bench almost, I think takes the pressure off, like being in huddles and seeing them like dancing in the middle of it. Like, I feel like that just kind of makes things more light and more fun, and I think we kind of like loosen up and just like play our game more. And so I think that definitely adds to it.
it's interesting.
And I would say too, like as coaches, we enjoy going to work every day. Like our coaching staff is very tight knit. We joke all the time. The players come in the office and they hear us joking around, and I think us enjoying being at practice helps them want to be there and enjoy it a little bit too. I'm pretty funny, wouldn't you all say? A little bit. So we joke.
That was funny. Yeah. Keep that up. That's a good.
No,
one.
we truly do like enjoy each other's company. Players, coaches, all of it, trainers, just everyone who has been a part of it, our managers. We have a good time, and I think that helped us get through a long year.
Yeah. Thinking about like the practices this year, honestly, like before every practice we come together in our huddle, and sometimes we'll be talking for 10 minutes and sometimes talking for like 2 minutes. But honestly, the practices that we come together and we're like just laughing and having a good time before practice, I think those are almost the best practices. Kind of like Coach was saying, just I think everyone was so fun this year and took it. Never took it for granted.
Should talk about the Cupid Shuffle.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what's the Cupid Shuffle?
So after we had a little bit of a rough weekend, we lost, and then we needed to just like regroup as a team, and we wanted to talk without the coaching staff, so just the players ourselves. And one of our teammates, Sammy Campanelli, she had a great idea. She was like, well, why don't, in the locker room before games, we play the Cupid Shuffle and we'll do the dance 3 times. And we'll do it in a circle. And she's like, it might be weird, but we have nothing else to lose at this point, so let's just try something. So our first game that we did it was Missouri S&T.
Wait, time out.
Yeah, I don't even know what it
What
is.
is the Cupid Shuffle?
It's like,
You don't have to demonstrate.
You gotta remember, like, we're old men. I'm an old,
Yes, we both
old guy, right? I do not know what the
don't even know
Cupid
how to
Shuffle
explain
is.
it's like a
It's a
line
dance.
dance.
It's a
Yeah.
dance. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's literally
there's a
just one
specific
step.
song connected
you go
to it?
right,
Yes.
and then you go left, and then
Kick.
that's basically it.
Yeah.
Kick,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
do it over again.
All right, okay, all right.
So-
I
Easy
think
to
I
learn.
got it now.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
So there's a song for it, and we played the song at Missouri S&T, and we got into a circle without the coaches there, and we
On
did
the
it.
court or in the locker
In the
room?
locker
Okay,
room.
all right, I'm just trying to, some teams do that, like they do some.
Yeah.
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so we do it in the locker room, and we play the song, and we do the dance 3 times. And that first one at Missouri S&T, we came out and like we played great. It was a lot of fun. And then the next game, I think we're at home, or maybe 2 games after that, we're at home, and the coach just has heard it. So the coach has joined in on this one.
That's awesome.
And since then, we haven't lost since we played it besides our last game. But it was just really fun. Like, we
Yeah.
looked forward to playing the song and doing the dance before every game. And that was just something to kind of like loosen us up, remember that like
Yeah.
it is fun and that,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we had like slow starts. That was always like our thing. We always had slow starts, and then we always said like teams don't know us with the Cupid Shuffle. Like they don't know us with the Cupid
We're
Shuffle.
gonna have a fast start with the Cupid
Yeah.
Shuffle.
Yeah, right.
So
Shuffle start.
That's great.
in one game, I think we did it 3 times. We did it with just us, the coaches, and then we did it at halftime. That overdid it a little bit, but yeah, it was still fun.
That's
It's
when you
the
know.
energy, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So we're almost out of time, but I want to ask first, Coach, and then maybe there's I have a version of this question for everybody. How do you, like I just said, the season always ends. We always ask coaches about this. Every year ends with a loss, except for one team in the country. And then you're always reflecting, of course, I'm sure a lot about the whole season. So how do you take in what you've experienced, transform it into a plan for the future, or learn from it and go forward? And I guess I'll just ask the second part. I swear, only 2 questions. How do you do that as an individual, like as a player or as a student, even? Like how do you grow when you're really good at something, and how do you keep growing and learning?
That's a great question. We just wrapped up our postseason meetings, individual meetings with every player, and we have a freshman, Allie, hi Allie, who is just like, what is next year going to be like? We won a championship, we're getting a
Right.
ring, like what else is there to achieve? And I really had to think like, wow, that's a great experience for a freshman, but there's so much more that we can be better at, that we can achieve, so many more lives we can affect. So just taking time really to understand this process and what we went through and how hard it was to do this and how much harder it will be next year to defend this. I just think breaking down the little things on how each of us can be better individually so that it all comes together as a team too.
Do you 2 have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would say kind of like after this season for the people returning, holding themselves to like a standard, because they've seen what we went through and what we worked through, to get this championship. But also looking in the future of like there's so much more that can be done than just that. So I think like taking it to a next level and even pushing each other more throughout the season to win an NCAA game and make it further.
And as I am coming back next year, we were kind of talking with some of the other girls, like Grace said, we know what it takes to get a championship. So we have to play like next year and practice next year with that in mind, that we want another ring. And like Grace said, it's going to be hard to defend. So we're going to have to work just as hard, twice as hard to attain that again next year.
And I hate to use the D word, but there is something to do. I mean, Drury won, 9 GLVC championships in a row?
Yes.
8 or 9? So that's something to shoot for, right? Because they still feel, like you said, it's hard to repeat, but they repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. And you could,
So it's
Lewis can
possible.
become,
It's possible.
Lewis can become that team that, like, oh my God, of course they're going to win the GLVC tournament, because they always win the GLVC tournament, right? And when you become that kind of a team, Chicago has some familiarity with that, with,
What?
3-peats. Chris is not a Chicago person, but the
talking
Bulls know a
about?
little bit about that,
Oh,
right?
yes,
So
yes,
you can,
yes.
there
True.
can be this like legacy that you leave. We were just at the Flyer Red dinner, right?
Yeah, right.
Celebrating teams that had significant
Multiple,
legacies because
yeah.
they had these, amazing years back to back to back to back, so which takes a lot of discipline and work, for teams to be able to keep that level of competition up. All right, anything
done.
else?
Yeah.
We're done. All
Thank
right.
you so
thank you
much.
so much for being here. Thank you all who are watching for being here. We will be off next week and be back on April 4th with a show focused on initiatives connected to the Lewis experience. It's, because I won't see you, I want to wish everybody both tonight and all of our students and families that are going, celebrating the month of Ramadan, but then all of the Christian families who will be celebrating Easter. I wish you nothing but the best. Many blessings to you and all those you love.